You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Enters Welcome to Demon School. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Do check and support the authors too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Izuku walked through the front door, poking his bruises with a grimace. His last run-in with Kaken hadn't gone well. "Mom, I'm home," he called out, carefully moving his clothes so the bruises didn't poke out. He smelled cooking, smiling at the homey feeling it gave. "Welcome back. I just finished cooking," she shouted back, her voice sounding a bit hoarse. He straightened at that, slowly moving into the kitchen area. He looked at her, Inko, a plump woman with kind, and now red and itchy, looking eyes. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked with worry. She waved it off. Yeah, I just burnt myself when I was messing with the vegetables. You know how often I cry," he laughed, sounding like she had been crying for a while. "I made us katsudon for dinner." This sentence caused a wide smile to appear on his face. "Awesome, thank you Mom," he said as he hugged her. "I got an A on my test this week," he stated to her, pride on his face as he took a bite. Inko smiled brightly. "That's wonderful, dear. You've always been so smart," she praised him, causing a blush. "Well, I've never gotten top marks, that's usually Kachen," he said, embarrassed. Izuku finished up, cleaning his plate as he walked over, giving her a hug. "Thanks for the meal. I'm going to do some homework then head to bed. Love you," he said as he left the room. "Love you too, Izuku," she shouted as he made his way to his room. Izuku let out a sigh of relief, able to lean down onto his chair. He looked down at his bag, pulling out notes from school, along with a burnt notebook, pulling it open on a fresh page. All right then, Mount Lady revealed a new super move today, and with that he began to feverishly write. All in all, today was an okay day. Inko's smile dropped as she watched her son enter his room. She went over to the counter, opening a drawer and pulling out a letter. She sat down on the table, looking over the contents of it. To Inko Midoriya. Due to an overhiring of new staff, the Mustafasu Hospital has had to make the tough decision to let some of our people go, and have re-evaluated all members to make the best decision possible for our patients. While we have enjoyed having you on our team, you fall short in terms of qualifications necessary to continue employment in your current role. As we have no other open positions, we wish you luck in your endeavors and hope that you use us as a recommendation for future employment. She reread the message over and over, trying to find any mistakes in identification or meaning. There were none. It wasn't a false note, and there was no way to mistake what it was saying. She was fired. She was unemployed. Tears began to form again, but she made no noise. "What are we going to? Are no other hospitals in the city looking for hire?" she muttered, staring at the phone as she remembered the conversation from earlier. The shouting and yelling, the complaints, and then the silence, the awful silence. Hisashi just said he would think about it and hung up. The BSTRD, a quirkless child, is nothing to be ashamed of. He's so kind and generous, so smart, oh Izuku. She put her head between her hands. All in all, today was a terrible day. Hisashi stared at the phone he tossed onto the floor, growling. He can't believe that Beach is going to make him spend all that money, and on a worthless son too. He began pacing the room, walking across it while clenching his fist. He couldn't just not pay, he'd get sued in court. And Inko may have not cut it out to be a lawyer, she cried whenever anyone yelled at her. But she knew the law well in and out. Frustrating, he thought as he idly grabbed a book. He was going through his collection earlier and found something he picked up at a garage sale by the Suzuki family down the street back at their place. He scoffed, lazily scrolling through the pages to numb his mind. Seriously, demon summoning for morons, what kind of ridiculous name was that? As Hisashi scrolled, he cut his thumb on a page, dripping BLD onto a circle. F. Does everything in my life want to be a cunt at the moment, he shouts, tossing the book away. He glared at the cut, only turning away when he saw a red light emanating from the book crumpled on the floor. The book soon became a pillar of fire. Hisashi's rage manifested in physical form. The blaze was unnatural as it, instead of a warm or burning sensation, caused a cold chill to settle over the room. The sparks matched with steps as a shadow slowly grew and grew, sparks fitting into a purple suit, wrapping around the fire. Animals scratched, an image of a bird dying in the blaze as its large skull now tied a fluffy collar. The flames now died down, showing Hisashi a wrinkly face, mustache on the thing man's lips and small glasses on his eyes. A bald head having small embers die down into horns on top of the head. Going over pointed ears, the chill only got worse, now coupled with a gravity as the man, whose presence demanded attention, stared impassively at the bug in front of him. "Speak to me your demand, human." The man no, the demon commanded. Hisashi quickly realized what was going on, sweating at this man's demeanor and the threat to his own safety. Thus, he began to get his point across fast. "I'm running through a bit of a money drain, and I'd like some help making that problem disappear," he stated as calmly as he could. "I see. Is this a financial problem, or am I murdering an enemy?" the demon asked as he stared down, casually enough to mistake it for a question on breakfast. Hisashi gulped at the calmness this thing emanated. "It's my family. My wife lost her job, and now I need to give more money to her and my worthless brat," he growled, finally getting into the spirit of things. "Family?" the demon asked with a head tilt, but nothing else. "May I see a picture of who to target?" That made sense. Hisashi went and grabbed an old photo album and handed it to the man. "The boy's older, but he should still be recognizable with the older pictures," he stated. The demon nodded, flipping through the pictures slowly at first, then faster and faster, a desperate look in his eye as he closed it. "How old is the child now?" he asked, staring into the human's soul. "He's 14, Hisashi replied. 14 years old, the perfect age." The demon gave a smirk and a chuckle. Hisashi quickly realized that this thing had a preference for young kids, but hey, he wasn't going to knock hell for what went on there. "So can you take care of this situation?" Hisashi asked the demon. "I'll do one better actually." The demon aimed his palm at the ground, muttering in language not meant for human ears, fire burning as with power as space distorted. It died down to reveal a chest, exposed to reveal riches from multiple eras. "I shall give you riches to live the rest of your days in peace and luxury." In exchange, he pulled out a burning contract, written in BLD, and produced a feather from his coat. "You must sell me the souls of your wife and son." Hisashi blinked for a few seconds. He then gave a vicious smile. "Done deal," he agreed, signing the contract without any hesitation. The paper burned away, the demon grinning victoriously. "Well then, enjoy your life, Hisashi-midoriya," he spoke, walking away as he faded away into nothing. Hisashi looked down at the treasure, knowing he could get tons of money if sold right. He smiled brightly. All in all, today was a good day. Lord Sullivan, one of the 3 great heroes of the underworld, chair demon of Babil's demon school, and the top candidate for the title of Demon King, stared down at the 2 tied up and unconscious humans, waiting for them to wake up. They eventually groaned, eyes blinking into consciousness, then screaming at their situation, noticing the rope and paper on said rope, saying sold. This continued for a solid 3 minutes. "Are you done?" he asked. They froze and noticed him, now screaming even louder. "Who are you?" the child asked, looking scared. "I am Lord Sullivan, a demon." Wings grew from behind the man, black and bat-like, lightning shining the room to create a deep shadow behind the man, looking as if they were gazing on the devil himself. "And your souls are mine." Why us?" the mother asked, shaking in her boots. She likely didn't believe him, but it mattered not. "Hisashi-midoriya sold your souls to me," Sullivan spoke, pulling out the contract out of flames. The child looked with a twinkle in his eyes, despite the fear in his body. Sullivan smirked at this. "Are you not Inko and izukumidoriya?" They froze in place, eyes wide and unbelieving as they stared at the contract. "That, BSTRD." The woman, Inko, gazed at the paper with a blank face, fury in her eyes. The demon grinned, putting it away. "Now then, on to matters of what I wish of you." He spoke, energy pouring out of his body. Energy washed over the two humans as they were paralyzed with an instinctual fear. "Now I shall ask this once and only once. Will you?" Sullivan leaned down, arms extended as the lights turned on, revealing an expensive-looking room full of kid toys. "Be my family, as my daughter and grandson," he screamed. The two had a look of shock on their faces, unable to comprehend what they were being asked. "You see," the demon starts, suddenly looking embarrassed. "I've been single all this time. It's always been my dream to have a grandchild." He gets on his knees as he claps his hands together. "My friends always brag about their grandchildren in my face, and it makes me so jealous. And I can't just break up a family, so I wanted you both. I'll give you both anything you want and spoil you to death, so please, please be part of my family." Izuku blinks in bafflement. "But we were sold, weren't we?" "I'll respect your wishes. It wouldn't be right to just force the role onto you both," Sullivan stated, now looking with hopeful and pleading eyes. Izuku is about to say something, but is cut off by Inko, who has a very serious look on her face. "If we do this, will we be safe and secure?" she asked, eyes filled with determination. Yes, of course. I'm not going to allow my family to suffer," he nods. Inko looks over to her son, a silent conversation in their eyes as she turns back. "We accept." She nods. Sullivan shouts with joy, hugging the two after breaking their ropes. Thank you. You both made me so happy. If you'd said no, I'd have eaten you while in tears," he shouts, oblivious to their horror. All in all, today was a perfect day. Inko had doubts about this life. She thought it would be something to fear every second. Sure, they would be comforted every second with money, food, and beds. But that meant nothing if every other second they would be around a creature who would eat them without a thought. Luckily, those doubts soon left her. The food was world-class despite the horrifying and exotic looks, and hell grey tea tastes so refreshing despite the ominous black smoke it emitted. The beds were comfortable and Izuku had internet access and notebooks of great quality for his hero research. She pushed down the pang of guilt at that. He was so determined, but without a quirk her baby would have gotten hurt. So far there was nothing that could hurt them, barring the fact that if a demon smelled them, the two humans would have been eaten on the spot. Then came the current moment in question. Sullivan-sen. "How many times do I have to say this? Call me Papa," the demon replied with a smile. Right, Papa, what's all of this?" she asks as she points at the pile of pencils and books, which for Izuku wouldn't be off, but also the clothes in question seemed pretty school-based. "This is for Izuku-kun. He's got his first day of school coming up," he states with a jovial tone. "Oh, I see." Inko nods with a smile. A few seconds later, a panicked expression enters her face. "Oh my god, I completely forgot about school," she shouts. "His grades can be slipping, the absences are pilling. Do we even have trains that go to Musutafu?" She begins to hyperventilate. "Relax, Inko dear, I've already worked on a transfer. He'll be starting at Babel's demon school in a few days," Sullivan reassures the mother. "Oh thank you, it's been hectic with the new adjustment, and I've been trying to make sure everyone is happy." "Did you say demon school?" She blinked at him. "Of course, I actually run the school. Could you imagine it? The grandson of the principal is attending his own school. We could have so much fun, imagine the friends," he shouted with joy. Right, I completely understand that. Counterpoint, is it safe?" She spoke sheepishly. "Why, of course it is. Opera, bring the perfume," he said to the man in question. Opera was a man with a red suit and shiny red hair with equally matching red horns, almost hidden with the adorably fluffy cat ears that twitched with mirth. Eyes an empty shade of orange that held a paradoxical bored and amused expression, and in his hands was a rather large barrel of sparkling purple liquid. He began dumping it on the adopted daughter. "She's covered, master." He spoke with a perfectly calm demeanor. "Is this some sort of netherworld ritual that I wasn't aware of?" Now, don't be alarmed, my darling daughter. This perfume is specially made to mask your scent from other demons. You have to be careful and put this on every day, or else demons will realize you're human and gobble you up." The newly made father and grandfather explained a bit too cheerfully for Inko's taste. "Well, he seems to be in high spirits." It certainly wasn't the most ideal situation Inko had ever found herself in, at least when she thought about it long enough. Before, it seemed to be an undeniable truth that she and her poor son were destined for hardship. A father and husband that grew more and more distant. Her son's heroic dreams crushed at such a young age, little, if any, real friends either of the Midoriyas could count on to care. But with Soul with Papa, it seemed to clear away most of her worries with one fell swoop. She knew Izuku wasn't exactly on board with her decision, that from his point of view, might have seemed rushed and hasty, but she had to believe this was all for the better. If Papa was the head of the school, Izuku had a better chance now of fitting in than he ever did back in the human world. There was nowhere to go for them if they returned to Japan. This was their home now. Besides, it was the first day, things couldn't go that bad, right? This is absolutely terrible, thought Izuku as he walked up to the front gate. The past few days had been okay. The free food tasted good despite its terrifying appearance. Although not as good as his mom's katsudon, he had a nice bed, plenty of notes and access to hero fights. Quality-wise it was good, and there wasn't anyone he was going to miss either. However, being dumped in a weird-smelling perfume and being sent to a school where he could be eaten was a major problem that would be considered not good. He tried to raise a complaint, but he couldn't betray Sully Grandpa like that when he was given puppy dog eyes. And after probably the most awkward family photo he's ever been a part of, as per Grandpa's request, Sullivan was kind enough to use magic to help him and his mother to read the language of the netherworld, so there really was nothing stopping him now from attending school here. So buckling down, he walked the path, and prayed to whatever god that was around that he would from this point on have a quiet and peaceful life that would lead to some bureaucratic facility in hell. The freckled teen blinked as he noticed the other demons flying with black wings. Interesting, they all have wings. I get that quirks were created through mutations of animals and environmental factors, mainly that virus back in 2020, but these wings seem too common for that, indicating it was created through adaptation. However, that would mean that factors existed making it difficult for them to live on land. Could there be other creatures from mythology that exit as predators? Or is the environment flammable and volcanic? This area is pretty desolate barring the school, so maybe... Hey, mumbling kid, Izuku flinched, realizing what happened as he gulped, turning to a group of tough-looking students, staring at him impassively. What happened? Did the perfume not work? Were they going to eat him? The orientation hall is on the right, don't wander off. Oh, yes sir, he shouted, relief flooding through his veins. I'm not staff, I'm an upperclassman. Call me senpai, the student smirked back. Izuku walked to the orientation halls, hearing the various conversations, ranging of how the week before school was, to talk of cute-looking boys, and even games coming out. Seems like a normal school, the 14-year-old thought happily, relaxing as he realized everything would be fine. The fact everyone here was a demon almost seemed like an afterthought. All the students looked like they could have passed off as quirked humans, so it was almost like he never left Japan. I might still stand out since I don't have any of their demonic features, but as long as I don't do anything foolish, I just might be able to make this work. The teachers walked up, 7 of them on the podium. All right students, welcome to Babel's Demon School. A bright-looking man said as everyone cheered, Izuku as well. Now then, let's sing the school anthem, he gestured to a piano player. All the students got up as it started a nice and friendly tone, so Izuku followed suit as all the students began to sing in Yujin. Humans only exist to be our FUD, sug them dry, soul, BLD, flesh, and all, tremble at the sound of black wings as we take flight, for we are demons. As this song pours forth from our red lips, scream for us, for we are demons. Our castle is the greatest evil. Its name is Babel's, a solitary place for study, sacrificing our souls, BLD, and meat without leaving anything behind. We shall aim for the demon's top. Izuku was frozen, not in wide-eyed terror, just a pale horror that literally froze every twitch he could possibly contain within his vessel. They must never know. I'm the wind, an unseen force that nobody will ever suspect. I will get average grades and a quiet life, he thought to himself as he mechanically sat down. He should have known it wouldn't be as easy as just joining a school full of human-eating demons. For once, it'll actually pay off to be plain looking. Next, a message from our chair demon, the announcer said. Wait, the chair demon? Are they talking about? Izuku, it's me, your beloved grandpa, Sullivan, without a hint of shame or regret, waved to his grandson. Your mother told me to tell you she loves you. I thought we were trying to stay under the radar. The murmurs of the student body were getting louder and louder as Sullivan went on and on. But fortunately, none of the wandering eyes were shifting to his direction. Okay, we can still salvage this. As long as he doesn't pick me out from the crowd. He's just so cute and precious that one could just gobble him up. In fact, here's a family photo we took this morning with my adorable daughter crying for his first day of school. This man's going to be the death of me, Izuku silently cursed, as now the whole school not only knew what he looked like, but his mother as well. He knew Sullivan desired to be the doting grandfather, but this was taking it to a ridiculous extreme. The only solace he could find was that no one he knew in the human world would ever find out about this. And now, the announcer got back to the microphone. We'll have a greeting from the representative of the new students, Asmodeus Alice. A tall student in a white version of the male school uniform and shiny pink hair stood up, and the audience began to murmur once more. It was mostly the girls swooning over him, but Izuku couldn't have been more grateful. If everyone else was so easily impressed by this guy, then obviously they'd forget all about him in no time. Taking his place will be the honor student, Midoriya Izuku. Ah! The boy in question mentally screamed. Dolly Dantalion watched as the student with eternally closed eyes, who was apparently the chairman's grandson, get up from his seat. It wasn't weird making such demands, but the man rarely talked about his family before. He watched Midoriya walk up to the stage with a shaky smile. Wow, so much determination to stand in front of a crowd, and he's excited for it too. Even if his body looks weak, his spirit isn't. He kept his gaze on the boy as he made his way onto the podium. Hello there, everyone. He greeted the school with a seemingly nervous stutter. There was a cough from Sullivan's direction. Turning, he only saw the man innocently whistling. That usually indicated something bad was going to happen. He needed to be on the lookout with Caligo. Abaruhak, everyone in the auditorium froze, students and teachers alike, as they turned to Midoriya, looking down on a piece of paper in front of him. He couldn't have. Was he preparing to Tarudadari? Uruseb? He was. What the hell was wrong with this kid? Rizuturu. Aburus. An almost dangerous pressure took a hold of the school, electricity in the air. Abaruj. Tsurazaza. An ethereal green glow overtook the student for a split second, barely notable as everything quieted back down. This ended as soon as the students started to cheer. The boy even had the gall to look confused, muttering something about understanding the language. Daly marched over to him. Hey, you can't just say a forbidden spell like that with no experience. You could have blown up your own body if you stuttered even once. Strange, the boy had gotten even paler. It couldn't have been a lack of information. This was basic knowledge taught to 4-year-olds. But I have to admit, seeing you do it was so cool, he shouted, along with most of the student body. What does it do, by the way? Midoriya asked. It makes sure that you never trip or fall for the rest of the day. Izuku only nodded slowly, a slim smile on his face as he made his way down. However, the boy was interrupted by Asmodeus Alice making his way in front of Izuku. Izuku Midoriya, I, Alice Asmodeus, hereby challenge you to a duel of demons, he shouts. If you refuse, I shall attack without remorse. Wow, a challenge on his first day, and he's still smiling, even though there's a bit of sweat. Must be in preparation for the fire. What a smart guy. Asmodeus was absolutely livid. It was the first day of school, and right as he was about to cement his standing and position as the school's representative, he was immediately upstaged by the so-called honor student Izuku, who had the gall to chant a forbidden spell in front of the entire school. What was even worse was through it all, the little shrimp had the audacity to smile like it was nothing. How arrogant. Just because you're the grandson of the chair demon doesn't give you the right to steal my thunder. Both of them walked out to the school courtyard, where they were followed by the audience not that much later. Perfect. If he assumes that one bold act of power makes him my superior, then he has another thing coming. Look, I'm so sorry about that. I wasn't trying to do anything to distract you. I mean upstage. I mean be rude to you. Can't we just talk things over? You stole my spotlight, and thus, it is my right as a demon to demand your death. Isn't that a bit extreme? No, extreme would be forcing your family to castrate you. The boy paled further. Perfect. Alice began to charge up his mana, his hand igniting as it caught a blaze. The cheering of the enlarging crowd only cemented the school representative's decision. Since you've stolen my light, it is only logical that you prove yourself worthy of it. He reeled his arm back, making the embers flowing through his hand shine brighter. Now you must prove to the whole school what makes you superior to me, with your body. He let the flames fly towards his target, and his victim trembled in terror, frozen in absolute fear as his fire hit its mark. Its only little stunt he pulled was just bravado. There's no way someone so unremarkable and common-looking could hold a candle to me. I'm sure if we can talk things through if we just calm down a little, Izuku yelled back, silencing Asmodeus and the crowd. What? Did I miss? The school representative was left aghast, getting a good look at his target. His unkempt bush of hair was smoking and his clothes were covered in soot, but he was still standing with a shaky smile on his face. There's no way you should be standing after that. Whoa, did you see that? The honor student tanked Asmodeus's attack like it was nothing. The crowd began to roar. What a badass. But he's so small and plain looking. He doesn't even have horns. He's making the school representative look like a chump. Unacceptable, Asmodeus roared, firing out an entire barrage of fireballs at the green nuisance, not relenting. This should be more than enough to turn you to ash. Smoke filled the air, and Asmodeus stood tall. Last time it had to be a fluke. Surely there's no way for the little runt to still be standing. Are you done already? Izuku shook, tired and breathing heavily, and more than a little burned by the last attack. But he was still standing, and it didn't look like he was about to fall anytime soon. This fighting is pointless. It'd be better if we stop now. This kid has ball. He just said fighting Asmodeus is pointless. Is he saying that he's not worth his time? He's so strong that Asmodeus is nothing compared to him. This should be impossible, Asmodeus screamed, getting on the ground and peeing the grass in frustration. Are you implying that I'm so weak that you won't even bother attacking back? What is it with everyone and wrong conclusions today? The green-haired kid shouted to the sky. If blasting you isn't working, then I'll have to bring out something even more effective. Asmodeus compressed his flames, pressure building until it formed into a solid blade. I'll cut and cauterize you to the point your insides will be nothing but ash. This time the boy did dodge, screaming all the while. It was infuriating. Just fight back. Stop avoiding me like a coward. More flames went into the blade, growing in size as he swung and swung. The desperate SWNGNG made him lose his focus on his surroundings, causing him to trip on a rock, with his overextended sword about to cut a female blonde student. Damn it. He tried to pull back on power, but he wouldn't be fast enough. He'd have to rush her to the nurse, and his train of thought was cut off as the green-haired student jumped and took the cut to his back, screaming in agony, shirt cut as his back sizzled, BLD leaking down with black marks littering his body. A few explosion marks could be seen, Asmodeus realizing that this kid was used to heat from the numerous injuries. He got up from the ground, about to say something but stopped when he heard the voice. Are you all right? What the hell? This guy got a major injury and was worried about someone else instead? Yes, I'm fine, but what about... The girl was interrupted by the freckled kid. Asmodeus looked at the window behind the pair, noticing Izuku's face. That expression, the kid was smiling. I'm glad. It would have been bad if... The boy trailed off, losing consciousness but still standing. Asmodeus was in shock. That boy smiled, a genuine smile. He willingly damaged himself just for someone else, for someone he barely even knew, given the girl's look of surprise. But he was still smiling so kindly, so caring. What was this? What was this kid? He ignored the cheers and his name, and about the comments of Izuku on his feet like a man, unable to get the face out of his mind. Izuku woke up with a dull pain on his body, groaning. He could barely recall what just happened, let alone where he was at the current moment. But the familiar sensation of burns across his back allowed him to recall exactly what happened. Oh right, the fight, he thought with a bit of bored annoyance. It wasn't the first fight he's ever been in, if constantly being trampled on without the power to fight back counted as a fight. But what made it all the worse was the pointlessness of it all. It seemed even whether in the human or demon world, nobody bothered to listen to him. Seriously, first the forbidden chant, then this, and that's not even getting on everyone else. It's like everyone in this hell of a world inherited Kachon's ability to jump to the wrong conclusion. Then again, it's hell that most likely influenced everyone that lived here. Being adopted by a demon. His mother agreed to said demon's terms, constantly under the threat of being eaten alive at any moment, and now a fight on the first day at a new school. It was like someone brought every single nightmare he had to life all at once. It really is like I never left Japan, except even worse, I didn't think that was possible. Maybe Sullivan would take pity on him and agree to have him homeschooled. He did say he would do anything for him and his mother. Izuku-kun, you're awake, a familiar voice shouted, Izuku turning to see a familiar horned demon. Grandpa? What are you do? Right, chair demon, he idly remembered. That's right, and I can't believe my sweet little grandson is so popular on his first day, Sullivan shouted, taking on a talented student like Asmodeus and standing strong. Standing? Grandpa, I'm pretty sure that was the forbidden chant. I can't fall over. And why did you have me say that? Because you looked so cool. There was little reasoning with this man. Also, your friend's here to see you. That sentence made no sense. He had no friends. The curtain in the room was moved, showing Asmodeus. Hello there, Izuku. I saw something of note in you, so I won't claim you as my servant. Wait. What's this about being a servant? However, the pink-haired boy leaned in with a look in his eyes. You piqued my curiosity, so I will be watching you very closely from now on. Well then, on the plus side, he could tell his mom he found someone to hang out with and technically not lie. Opera was a loyal servant whose conviction and dedication hardly ever wavered. It was an important trait to have, especially when serving an eccentric MSTR like Sullivan. It wasn't their place to question the whims or the logic of the closest thing the Netherworld had to the Demon King at the moment. They just had to follow their duty as best as they could, while at the same time making sure the chair demon actually took their job seriously. Of course, the demon thought as they dusted the shelves. This didn't mean they didn't seriously question Sullivan's methods at times, such as his latest decision to take in a human woman and her young son as his own family. A decision Opera quite frankly didn't fully understand the reasoning behind. They questioned the old MSTR's decision the night after the adoption, stating how the chair demon could have adopted any number of demon children at any given time he wanted. It's more interesting this way. Humans can be way more cute than any old demon. Yes, the infallible logic of cuteness over common sense. Truly we have gone from the days of old. Sighing, the butler continued their work, adding some mix to the pot near them. They noticed the woman approaching, straightening up as the butler turned to face her. Mrs. Midoriya, I told you time and time again that I can handle the dishes. It's my job and I do not require assistance. Opera said with a tone of repetitiveness. It's not that, Opera-san. Another thing, MSTR was never going to let them live down. I wanted to ask you a favor. It's about Izuku. Opera only tilted their head to signify a continuation. I'm worried about him. He's never told me anything about his school life. I know he's bullied, but besides me no one has ever cared. It didn't matter who I went to or what I did. It never stopped and eventually he just started bottling it all away. Tears went down her face. I would ask Papa, but he's a man with little common sense and a love for chaos, they stated the fact bluntly. Yes, please look after my baby boy, she begged him. You can do this, right? Opera looked over the woman, so fragile and begging for their help, eyes broken from trying to hit a brick wall over and over, every last drop of BLD squeezed from her hope. I'll make sure. I can keep an eye on him during school. The butler spoke with a nod. Despite some initial reservations about Sullivan's idea, they held no ill will towards either Midoriya. Quite frankly, it was nice to have more people around such a big home, and each green-haired human was unrepentantly kind. Much more than he suspected any human would be, let alone any demon living around here. They were pretty emotional, however, a trait they seemed to share with Sullivan. Inko in particular cried an entire river that led out the door upon waking up to the buffet breakfast they had set up on their first day. Her eyes were like two mini waterfalls as she cried and ate more than her fair share of the food, something they suspected must have happened a lot back in their own world, if Izuku's face was anything to go by. The mopping took a full hour to complete. Impressive stuff. Speaking of, Opera glanced at the boy, who was now sitting at the dining room table, his head deep in one of the new notebooks his grandfather had gotten for him. rapidly writing something as his mouth ran on in a nearly indecipherable ramble. They occasionally caught words and names such as Fire and Asmodeus, so they figured the boy was still a bit shaken about what happened and was trying to glean what sense he could make of it. Mr. Izuku. Izuku kept muttering, completely lost in the rant. He kept going on and on about possible beasts. A thought occurs. Today is supposed to be summoning day, correct? Asmodeus stands at the gate, hearing the student council greet every student good morning as they walk by, doubling when that Amory woman cracked down on them. Truly a formidable force he would have to look out for in the future, the head of the student council. He watched students fly and land, trudging by until he finally found his target, talking the long road. Strange, why walk when you can fly? A training method, perhaps? By the time they actually came through the gate, he walked up to them. Izuku? The kid flinched, turning to him. I see you've just arrived. As the freshman representative, I should walk with you, yes? Oh, of course. The green-haired kid nodded, shaking in his boots. The shivering somehow increased with every side comment a student made. Wow, you can feel the tension from here, the two rivals going at it verbally. Look at that little guy, trembling with excitement. Asmodeus doesn't even back down an inch, such calm passion. I say that Asmodeus won that fight. No way, definitely Izuku for standing still. You think they're gonna FCK? The students paused their comments and turned to a small gray eye stalk with a female uniform known as. Asmodeus did not know the name and refused to be aware of nobody's. What? I can't be the only one thinking about it. I mean, Izuku is kinda hot, but is he into guys? Asked that blonde that was saved yesterday. He turned but noticed Izuku actually walking over to her. Strange, it seemed he was going to demand compensation for her rescue. However, if the boy truly was Chair Demon Sullivan's grandson, then there couldn't be anything monetary she could offer. Was it her body? Maybe that was what the smile was for? Hey, are you all right? You didn't get hurt yesterday, right? The boy asked her. Oh, I'm fine. You took all the damage. How can I make it up to you? I don't have much on me. She looked through her bag with a blush, desperately searching for something. No problem, I'm just happy you're safe. I'm Izuku, nice to meet you. He greeted her. Aiko. My name is Aiko. Her blush got brighter. The bell screamed, looking he could see the tongue and teeth up in the tower open wide as they broadcasted students should hurry to their areas. Oh, got to head to class now. We can talk more later. Aiko, Izuku shouted with a wave as he ran back to Asmodeus, unaware of the girl becoming a blushing mess as she melted onto the floor, with a dragonic friend screaming Aiko in worry at the top of her lungs. Come on Asmodeus, we'll be late for. I never got a note for what to do next. Do you know? The pink-haired boy blinked, staring at Izuku. He didn't ask for anything in return, no servitude or favors, just happy she was unharmed and safe. What was wrong with him? Some sort of brain deformity? School is a place to learn magic and build up potential servitude, along with ranks and reputation. There was no place for worry, but why? Why was he so damn happy getting nothing in return? Our next job is familiar summoning. He decided to speak out as he led the green-haired enigma to class. Familiar? Izuku asked, making the school representative tilt his head a little. He asked as if he didn't understand the concept, which shouldn't be possible if he was the grandson of the demon that ran the school. Almost as if he sensed his confusion, the freckled boy continued on. My mother and I lived far, far away from here. My school from before was a bit different. That just added more mystery on top of a frankly mind-baffling situation. This mere boy stuttered and shook like some sort of cornered prey, yet Asmodeus had to be a fool to deny that Izuku had more strength than he let on. Strength that he seemed to be unconcerned with using to his advantage. In any other situation, any demon in the same position yesterday would have attacked the moment they realized his flames had little, if any, effect on them. Yet his first instinct was to try and talk him out of it, never once fighting himself, and ending the fight by sacrificing his own body to protect a mere stranger. Asmodeus Alice wanted answers. He wanted to know exactly who Izukumidoriya was, but he had to keep some integrity. He wouldn't stoop to any lesser level and ask the honor student. No, he would observe from the sidelines and solve this conundrum himself. Aiko stared at her savior, wide eyes shining brightly. He was just so cool. He's the chair demon's grandson. He treats Asmodeus like a rival, maybe even less, and shakes with excitement whenever someone threatens him. The photo they used for the school paper retelling the event didn't do that smile justice. And even with all that, he's so kind, gentle and caring, and those wide clear eyes and bright cheery smile make her feel warm and fluffy on the inside. She wants to repay him so badly, but what could she do to make it up to him? She was tempted to talk to him again right now, maybe get to know him a bit better, but he was right next to his rival, who she may have developed a slight fear of, and the green cutie was muttering in his own little world. Maybe she could train some more to be better at a random thing he'll need. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. She was interrupted, however, by the door suddenly opening with a loud slam. Turning, she would see a man walk in with cold, dead eyes. He watched everyone, staring into their souls almost as his gaze lingered on a few. Silence. One word was all she and everyone else needed to hear to know they'd be dead if they didn't comply. His gaze was cold and uncaring, and all the students cleared the way as he strolled to the front. In his hands was a single copy of the school newspaper, specifically the cover story depicting Izuku's duel. My name is Nabarius Caligo. I am the sole permanent leader of this ritual because I'm able to retain dignity at all times. I will determine whether or not you're useless trash or remotely useful trash, but know that you'll be trash either way. This teacher didn't look like he joked around. She suddenly felt afraid to breathe the wrong way around this man. For example, he walked right up to Izuku and leaned over him like a demon bird about to snatch up a rat. If said trash were to use the spotlight his precious grandfather gave him to chant a bogus spell right before instigating a fight with another student, that'll be immediate grounds for expulsion. Wow, even when threatened by a scary teacher who could expel and or kill them on the spot, Izuku shook with an excited twitching smile. Or, Caligo continued, standing and looking in a general direction. If some moron instigated a fight with a teacher and sent them to the infirmary, that would also be grounds for expulsion. I regret nothing, shouted a surprisingly buff student. Now then, familiars are very important. They help determine your ranks and will act as partners you will depend on even in life or death situations. He pulled out a TV screen. This video will explain all the details you need. It didn't look like Caligo was a fan of the weirdly timid and pink character that was explaining the process. Welcome everyone to Familiar Summoning 101. Let's go over the steps you need to become a great summoner. Step 1. Get a magic seal handed out by a teacher. Step 2. Cover it with your BLD. Step 3. Set the paper on fire. Any will do, regardless of magical or natural qualities. Step 4. The smoke will form into your familiar, summoning it from a faraway land and bind it through a contract. Now then everyone, let's have foo. The digital character was cut off, on the account of Caligo drop kicking the screen strong enough to leave a small crater in the ground. Now then, he went on as if nothing happened, causing a few students to back away from him in fear of a tranquil outburst. You will each take a seal in the basket. They're my version, so I know no cheating will be involved. If anyone fails, I'll expel them on the spot. From there, the teacher called out students, each one showing off the variety of their familiars within the school, bragging rights. It was a rather fast process, each student summoning creatures big and small. Some got rarer finds like a kelpie, others got rather mundane things such as the clever monkey. One even got 2 summons, a snow king fox and a blizzard wolf, and she looked so ordinary to boot. Asmodeus stepped up, the trio known as the Hot Boys fan unofficial battler screaming his name. For Antichrist's sake, the dude almost killed 2 people on his first day. Then again, he was good looking, but the personality just didn't match. He calmly bit his thumb rather than take the knife and splashed his BLD on the parchment without making physical contact. Setting it ablaze, the smoke burned and shone brightly. Once cleared, the entirety of the room applauded in uproar as the school representative's familiar was shown to be a gorgon snake with stunning white scales and bloody red eyes. Wow, Asmodeus-san, that's impressive. The first to come up to him was Izuku, whose eyes beaded in excitement and awe. So humble too. There were so many traits that just made her savior more and more attractive. I think you probably have the best summon so far. Asmodeus didn't look like he knew how to take his rival's compliment. Well, that's just what's expected of me. I am very powerful, after all. More like full of yourself. In Aiko's mind, Izuku was the clear winner of that fight. One can only hope your familiar ends up half as decent as mine. Yeah, I can only hope. Oh, looks like Izuku was up next. This was something she didn't dare to miss. Aiko suddenly felt a pat on her shoulder, and she turned to notice her dragon-like friend Gakko looking at her with slight confusion. You really like that honor student, don't you? What? I mean, that's well, what's not to like? He's strong, brave, and so kind. How many demons do you know that'll take a hit for you and not ask for anything back? Gakko continued to give her a worried look. I get it, but it's a bit weird. Both turned to Izuku, whose body trembled the more the list of students yet to be called shortened. He hasn't stopped shaking ever since the ritual started. I know, he must be really excited to get his own familiar. I'm just saying, be careful. Huh, about what? What gave her friend that kind of reaction? He's getting excited over a dangerous situation. Just think about what that might mean for him, and you if you ever date him. She thought about it for a few minutes as she watched the boy cut himself. Then she fell as her face grew red. Thoughts of empty halls and bedrooms taking over in a way not meant for innocent minds. Aiko, she could hear her friend call out before the girl passed out. Caligo watched the boy cut himself, ignoring the shouting of the other students. He could tell this was going to be a headache. Anything involving the chair demon was. And he was far too underpaid to deal with another headache. He would wait and pray to Satan that whatever would be summoned would fail, and he could just expel Midoriya before he became too bad. That was strange. Midoriya looked somehow less excited than he did before. All that shivering was now replaced with a content smile on his face. Weird. He's either oblivious to the dangers of failure or completely confident to the point that he fears nothing. He's a fool either way. Learning that the fool they called Chair Demon had a family was ludicrous enough, but seeing the idiot's grandson was too much for him to handle all at once. In less than an hour, this Izukumidoriya proved to be everything that he hated in the world: naive, ignorant, and danger-prone. That ridiculous smile. He craves attention so much he'll throw safety to the wind just for an iota of spotlight. Bad enough that the old fool docks my pay and forces me to use that ridiculous video. But he expects me to actually tolerate this brat? Not if I have anything to say about it. The boy went ahead and dropped the seal onto the candle fire, hope in their eyes. He would be sure to extinguish it as soon as why was the note sparking. Kid, what did you do to the seal? He shouted at the boy, running in to try and prevent whatever was happening. A summoning seal that malfunctioned was no laughing matter. Best case scenario, it dissipates. Worst case, it sends the summoner into the depths of the cosmos, never to be seen again, though either option would be better for Caligo in his opinion. This would be denied in the form of a massive pillar of light covering the area, blinding everything as he had to cover his eyes. When it finally dimmed down, he looked down onto Midoriya, who was staring at the spot of his burnt paper with wide eyes full of disbelief. This is my familiar, Izuku questioned loudly, a pillar of smoke emerging from the ground, forming a vaguely familiar shape that filled the teacher with dread, a shape the green-haired student seemed to recognize almost immediately. Opera-san? Caligo began choking on his own voice as that familiar deadpan tone began to speak. Hello MSTR Izuku. I hope classes are going well for you. No. Of all the DMN creatures in the universe this brat could have summoned, it had to be the demon he hated almost just as much as Sullivan. What the hell are you doing here? He prepared a massive ball of energy. It would double as a way to obliterate the BSTRD where he stood, or blast himself out of the window. He was leaning towards option 2. Oh, you're here too, Tohai? One look from the Red Devil was all it took to get Caligo to freeze. My services are required to watch over the younger MSTR to ease his mother's worries. I suppose we'll be able to have fun like we did when we attended. That straight face was the stuff nightmares were made out of. I refuse this. Why the hell can he even summon a demon in the first place? He screamed as other students began to mutter. He's got a point. Imagine how much power is needed to enslave someone like that. And to be so cruel as to take someone in that contract, such evil hidden in that smirk. And someone you know, surprised he didn't target Caligo out of anger. He twitched at that one, but refused to acknowledge it. What? This isn't what I wanted at all. I didn't want this, Midoriya shrieked. Looks like the brat and him could actually agree on something. I refuse this. We're going to break this contract now. He blinked as he realized something. Quick, push him down. We can make the summon fail if he doesn't enter all the way. Midoriya reached, but sadly, someone on his age level couldn't handle the skill range of that cat demon. The butler placed his hands on the ground and pushed strong and quick enough to launch himself at the ceiling, now glowing. I can assure you, Mr. Izuku, that this'll be all for the better. The light flashed, before showing off Opera's new form. Tiny devil wings glided the red cat down next to Izuku, perching on the rail with sharp claws. Its face remains a slight interest and calm with those sharp eyes. And before either of you say anything else, the contract lasts a full year. He hates being right about headaches. Well, looks like I can embrace my chances of fading into the background. Goodbye. Once again, Izuku found himself the subject of the school's newspaper as their latest headline. It wasn't long before word got around the school about the demon who made another demon his familiar, and by the way, everyone in the hallways was giving him looks. It was more than a subject of slight controversy. I wasn't even sure the ritual was going to work. I'm human, I half expected to fail and get kicked out of here. It was kind of a long shot, since in the long run, he didn't believe Grandpa would have allowed his precious grandson to ever get kicked out of his own school. But wasn't it nice to dream a little? The worst part about it was that Sullivan, once he and Caligo-san headed to his office in hopes of getting Opera out of the contract, laughed joyfully and refused to sever the contract because 1. It'll allow Izuku to have extra protection at all times. 2. It was too funny seeing Caligo's defeated expression, and 3. The contract really did last for a year, go figure. Judging by the looks he gave him once he headed out, Izuku figured he'd be on that man's list of most despised people, which, sadly, wasn't anything new to him. The only person who wasn't warily watching him from a distance was Asmodeus, who was walking beside him as they made their way to grab their textbooks for the year. And even then, Izuku felt like there was some kind of wall that prevented them from being proper friends. Which was a shame because Asmodeus was more amicable than Kachin, in the sense that they could talk to each other without the taller student actively threatening him. I have to say, that was quite the show you performed. Asmodeus complimented the situation in his own way. No one in the history of Beyblades has ever subjected another demon like that before. It seems your craving for the spotlight knows no bounds. That's not it at all, Izuku screamed, his head feeling like it was on the verge of splitting. Back in Japan, nobody gave him the time of day, and now he's gaining a reputation here as some sort of danger-hungry show-off. I just wanted to do the ritual like everyone else. I'd rather not stand out, at least not like this. Asmodeus didn't look like he believed him. It's not a terrible situation. On the contrary, now everyone knows you have the power to enslave any of them. Why did he put it like that? That made him sound like some sort of villain. With a reputation like that, no one will dare mock or mess with you. Hey, you three. Asmodeus pointed to 3 students in the middle of the hallway. Asmodeus then immediately got his seal and summoned his familiar. Get out of my way. The 3 students panicked, and were on the verge of running away, when Izuku got right in front of the Gorgon. Asmodeus-san, what are you doing? Showing these cretins their place. They should have cleared a path once they've seen me. Isn't this just a huge waste of time though? Asmodeus, recalling how Izuku said similar words yesterday, let him continue. You're strong and powerful, no one in the school can doubt that, right? He turned to the 3 students who almost became ash, who quickly nodded their heads. In the time you've summoned your familiar, you could have just walked past them without any trouble. Izuku wanted to end this quickly. They were gathering an audience, who probably assumed this was round 2. Is it really worth using all that magic just to walk down a hall? Asmodeus's face cringed, and Izuku feared he may have crushed what little peace he's managed to make with the representative. Fine. You have a point, I suppose. No use using my power on something insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Asmodeus walked down without saying another word, and Izuku quickly followed him before the gathering audience could ask any questions. At this rate, I'm going to die by the end of the week from all the stress, he thought to himself miserably. On the plus side, he wouldn't be causing trouble for Caligo-sensei. That man seemed to have a headache from his existence. Izuku decided to double-check his workload in the meantime to help get his rampant thoughts together. He pulled out a notebook labeled workload and started to write. Let's see, demon basics, curses, pharmaceutics, and art of torture. These are going to be the basics of the textbooks we're getting. Judging by the average size of that class man walking towards us, we can deduce each book is about 200 pages, which would last us the first semester. This is likely to stop advanced classes for people not ready for a dangerous subject. Seriously, just a single wrong chemical, and you end up with nitroglycerin. Taking in the average school day and the time it takes for the trip home that leaves 6 hours, meaning that adding into account silent reading in school hours, I can work 2 hours of study time if I work strong, allowing 4 hours of free time. What about you, Asmodeus? He asked innocently. Asmodeus, in response, stared blankly at Izuku with a look of trying to process something, magenta eyes wide and almost impressed. He shook himself afterwards, almost like he realized something. Of course, I'm thinking about 3 hours of study. My grades need to reflect my rank after all. He sounded high and mighty. Man, talk about dedication. It was like staring at Kachin, only he was somehow less scared of the demon. There's the room we need to pick up the books from. Asmodeus quickly SWCH the subject. Nodding, they walked in and heard loud screams of terror coming from the room, high-pitched and in fear. Someone's in trouble, Izuku shouted. All right, you enter first and take on any threats. I'll hang by the entrance and get people out safely. Asmodeus looked like they were about to say something, until a feminine voice interrupted them. Rolling, followed by a green ball breaking the door, spinning at impossible speeds into a box pile they somehow didn't notice before, sending the pile flying all around. Asmodeus simply moved to the right and smacked one out of the air. The less skilled Izuku took a hit to the face. However, the green ball, no, that's a girl, came out with a fanged grin that seemed to fit on a small child, which she looked like. Strike, she laughed. Is she playing some sort of game? Izuku assumed that with the laughing that she wasn't hurting herself at the very least. Glad there's no one in trouble. Wrong, Asmodeus sternly corrected. It's imperative that neither of us make eye contact or say anything. Just remain still as we slowly escape and hope she doesn't. Asmodeus's warning came too late when the crazed, smiling girl caught a glance of Izuku as her eyes grew larger and larger. No, that wasn't it. She just ran up to him, their noses practically touching each other as she invaded his personal space. The blush that covered Izuku's face was blinding. Hi, I'm Clara. My right foot's Connor. My left foot's Murph. My familiar is Faffle. I was trying to find some teaching aids, but I got so excited and I crashed. Wow, your hair is really green just like mine, so that must mean we have a lot in common. Want some candy? I have some in my pockets. It was only by Izuku's skill of muttering 100 words a minute that he was able to keep track of what Clara was saying. When you see a big pile, don't you just want to go kaboom? Her eyes sparkled as she went to the crumble pile of boxes, singing as she restacked them. If it's for daddy, I'll skip to my loo. If it's for mommy, I'll patty cake, patty cake. Clara Valak. She's known to be a colossal weirdo, Asmodeus whispered in Izuku's ear to explain the situation. She's super clingy, so people have to try extra strong to avoid her. They do? Izuku instantly felt a tinge of sadness for the hyper girl. Maybe we should. Hey you, stop stacking those boxes. A teacher ran up, tired from dealing with the rolling girl making a mess. He stopped yelling once he noticed the other two. You're the honor student Izuku, and you're Asmodeus, right? Clara instantly perked up at the mention of their names. Good, you can handle this from here. With a single lift of a finger, the three students found themselves hoisted in the air, before they were tied together by a rope and sent down the hall. I can't catch a break no matter what, Izuku thought, wondering what exactly he got himself into this time. It was strong for Asmodeus to truly regret anything. A silver lining, one would say, as he found an advantage within any scenario he found himself locked into. Valak Clara was not a silver lining. She was an energy source that could never die no matter what happened, and would solve green energy if it wasn't for the fact she was using this to terrorize every living thing around her. One might be able to find a hint of respect for the little green gremlin for building such an infamous reputation in such a short time, but the pink-haired teen had none for such a creature. While Midoriya Izuku was a frustrating puzzle for him to solve, he could acknowledge the boy's strength and logic, the little he could fathom anyways, but Valak was just plain annoying. There was nothing more to her than that. Said girl was flailing around on the grass, hardly noticing that the three of them were in the school courtyard, or the fact that he managed to free them, which was not an easy feat with the she-demon constantly fidgeting. That was rather random. The boy with green hair sighed, looking rather content. He must have dealt with annoyances a lot back where he was from, the price of being strong. At least he was kind enough to float us the textbooks. He pointed to the 3 packages Asmodeus had beside them. So you're as, and your Izuku kins? The troublesome girl Gidley pointed to them. What I want to play? Izuku kins? The boy's face lit up red, making him resemble some exotic fruit he vaguely recalled reading about once. As? Oh no, she's already imprinted on them. I have tons of things to play with. She dumped a random assortment of junk from seemingly out of nowhere on the ground. Like this spiky ball, or this nom nom book, or the Broken Family Murder House set. Doesn't that sound like fun? Is she planning to play something or to kill someone? Izuku asked a very legitimate question. When it came to demons as insane as her, it was strong to tell the difference. We should flee, Asmodeus whispered into his rival's ear again. Once she starts, there's no telling when she'll stop. Yeah, but we could. Why wasn't this guy taking his warning seriously? Doesn't he know what he's getting into? Let's play Murder House, Izuku kins. You're kinda taller than me, and you have green hair, so it would be perfect if you were the tree. Veilak held a crudely drawn picture of a tree for him while showing a toothy smile. The honor student's body began to shake again. Wait, don't tell him he's actually enjoying this? Her of all people. Veilak-chan, I wouldn't mind playing with you, but there's something I have to do before. Okay, so he isn't completely hopeless. At least he has common sense where it counts. Please, Veilak ran up to him and clasped his hands in her own. I'd really love it if you played with me. Izuku shook more wildly than he's ever seen so far. For a moment, he thought he saw steam puffing out of his ears before he held himself still for a second. Fine. The freckled teen slumped forward. I guess it wouldn't hurt to play just a little. This confirmed it. Midoriya Izuku was a madman. The only solution was to flee and abandon him. Sure, he was supposed to watch him, but this girl was far too dangerous. He took a small step back when Veilak turned around to face him. As, you can be the housewife my husband cheats on. His eyes twitched. Why the hell am I playing the role of a home wrecker? Sadly, broken marriages were a trigger. He blamed his mother in all honesty. Please Asmodeus, just for a few, Izuku begged with pleading eyes. We can do what you want after. A tempting offer, he could force the madman down for a chat of tea. Fine then. He put on the drawing on his shirt. Hurry up and divorce that husband of yours, you stupid wench. I'm the only one who can make the man happy. You're just dragging him down and down in debt, he shouts, directing anger at her into his role. Wow, Asmodeus, you're a natural actor, Izuku shouts at him, causing a smirk to grace his lips. Of course, just one of his many talents, like recognizing danger and moving out of the way. Such as the axe coming at him. He quickly rolled out of the way as the Veilak girl cleaved the ground where he previously stood. What in the world are you doing? Yay, a lover's quarrel and a bloodbath. Come on Izuku Kai, stop us, she shouted with a happy expression on her face. What do you want the tree to do? I can't do much other than stand in the sun, Izuku reiterated, holding his arms above his head as if they were branches. Her only response was to laugh. Okay, you can be someone else. Veilak smiled, pulling out some clipboards. We have a husband, a child, a dog, and a cat. She handed him the pictures. I can be the... Another bright blush took hold of his face, the pure embarrassment he was facing, degrading himself for a madwoman. I can be the dog, but what about the other role? Connor and Murph can play them. She took off her sharp-toothed slippers with googly eyes, putting the boards onto them and showing them off. Say hi to them, guys, she smiled. Izuku glanced at Asmodeus and gave a bit of a pity smile, and it made sense. This girl was so alone she was actually deluding herself into believing those things were companions. Hello there, Connor, Murph. How are you two doing today? The shoe's eyes turned to stare at Izuku. Fine. The shoes spoke with fang-filled mouths and a demonic duet of a voice. Valak giggled and turned away from the frankly drained-looking Izuku. "We got the husband. Now it's secret time," she shouted, laughing joyously at their despair. Izuku breathed on the ground next to Asmodeus, exhaustion from running for his life taking over his body. 2 hours non-stop, I can't breathe, oh, he muttered as a soccer ball hit him in the face. He had to give Valak this, she had quite the imagination, much more than he ever had in his life. "What, you two already out of energy?" she asked with a tilted head. "How much sugar do you live off of, demon?" Asmodeus half asked, resting the best he could. "Don't worry, I'll give you both some fuel." She patted her pockets, a soft glow taking them over as she pulled out a juice bottle and snacks that were too large to fit in there. "Here you go," she smiled at them. Asmodeus took his and swallowed the juice as if it was life BLD. Izuku, however, had more pressing concerns. "How did you fit those in your pocket?" he asked, in confusion and curiosity, tilting his head. "It's my family's ability. I can make anything I've seen before." To demonstrate, the girl pulled out a trident and a snake out of her pockets. Izuku's eyes widened with glee. "That's amazing. Imagine all the possibilities. There's no size limit due to the fact you pulled out an object bigger than the pocket, and if it's object seen before, that's a massive boon to prevent food shortage problems. Along with the fact that if you're ever in a bind or troublesome situation, you could provide just about anything to solve the problem. Do you have to see the object in real life, or can a picture suffice? Could that even extend to anything you can imagine or make up? Does?" "Hehehe, you say a lot of funny words all at once." Valak laughed while Asmodeus looked at him a bit stunned. "That's okay, I like doing that too. It's super fun just saying how you feel. Like yesterday I felt like Kablam, which was weird because I'm usually feeling like Kaboom, except when I'm feeling like Bam Bam." Izuku couldn't help but lift the corners of his mouth as water threatened to build up in his eyes. No, he wouldn't cry. He wouldn't cry from the acceptance this girl was showing him or the fact neither one of his schoolmates called him out for being a creepy mumbler or stalker. Yeah, sorry, I got carried away. That's an amazing ability you have, Valak-chan. You could quite possibly be the most powerful student in our grade." Asmodeus looked like he was on the verge of passing out and Valak looked flustered. Strange, usually people either wave off or nod at his compliments. This truly was a whole new world from his life on Earth. Before anyone could say anything else, 3 other students, possibly a year or 2 older than them, came up from behind. "Hey Clarine, did you acquire some new owners?" The blonde one said in a condescending tone one would give a little child. Owners? Izuku instantly got a bad feeling from these 3, especially when he saw Clara run up to them and the lead, Yoichi, patted her head like she was some sort of pet. Brief flashes of 3 nasty classmates of his in middle school came to mind, but he shook his head to focus on the present at the moment. "Come on now, make the drinks already." Yoichi impatiently smiled down at her as Valak complied, handing off 3 bottled drinks for them without complaint. "Thank you. Later." The 3 laughed, and Izuku instantly recognized this must have been a recurring situation for the happy schoolgirl. "Valak-chan, are you all right?" Izuku came up to her with a worried look. She didn't lose that smile on her face, but it didn't seem to have the same energy as before. "Those guys aren't bothering you in any way, right?" "What? Oh, them? Nah," she happily waved off. "You see, I give them things, and then they play with me sometimes. Like when I give them drinks, they'll play fetch. Or when I give them popsicles, I'll count to 60,000 and play hide and seek. That doesn't sound much like playing." Izuku was painfully aware of the situation going on, and it ate him up on the inside to see these 3 jerks stringing this girl along just to use her like a living vending machine. "If they're making you uncomfortable, I can always." "No, it's all right. You're the first ones to actually play with me. This is the most fun I've ever had with someone else." She got nervous, wiggling her tail back and forth. "So, would you play with me again?" A small part of Izuku wanted to say no. He was no good with talking, or with interactions, or people in general. Not to mention that Valak was a girl, a cute, extroverted girl that was not afraid of touching, hand-holding, or hugging. His face burned up so much today he felt like his head was about to melt. But Valak was just lonely. It may have been a bit much to handle at times, but she didn't deserve being ostracized just for that. It was probably the lonely schoolboy in him too, but he wanted to keep Clara happy. Besides, wasn't it a hero's job to see the people around them smile? Sure, I'd love to. Yoichi drank tentatively from the bottle. Despite it being free, he'd have to interact with the brat to get it, so the best thing to do was savor every droplet. Man, that honor student is a freak, he heard the orange-skinned lackey speak. He's still hanging out with the troglodyte. Why would anyone hang out with the crazy weirdo? Asked the lime-skinned lackey. You morons, it's because she's useful to him, he spoke, causing the others to turn heads. Just comply once in a while, and she gives you anything you want, food, games, etc. He explained as they nodded. That may not be it for the green-haired one. They turned to the orange-haired kid. Haven't you heard? The honor student is a danger junkie. He spoke forbidden chants, took on Asmodeus, and made a demon his familiar. If anything, her constant destructive tendencies may just be something that fulfills his need of life-threatening situations. Well, a lot of her games have spikes, so you might be onto something, spoke the lime-skinned lackey. Does this mean we're not going to be able to use our favorite vending machine anymore? He asked as he looked at Yoichi. Diamenet, despite how annoying it was, the beach could really save them money. What to do? Well, she likely has more energy. He'll just wear himself out until he realizes she's too much even for him to worry himself over. If he's still with her after a week, we'll talk then. That's our Yoichi, MSTR planner. The gang laughed to themselves, ignoring the sound of tiny broken footsteps walking away. Do they think I don't know? Clara muttered as she trudged down the halls. A lot of people assumed she was just some dumb kid that was careless to everything around her, but she still had ears. Dang it. She wasn't stupid enough to ignore how people tended to treat her like some sort of pest or rodent. She heard the whispers, and each one of them hurt. She's known for a while why Yoichi and his pack kept coming around, but she didn't mind too much. They treated it like it was a chore, but they still came around, and if she made the treats extra special, they'd actually keep their promise and play with her, even if it was only for a second, and she was the only one trying. But Izuku-kin's was completely different. When she ran up to him, instead of running away or freaking out, he shook with excitement and smiled back at her. That never happens. He stayed and played with her for hours without so much as asking for a single drink until she offered. And even when he did find out, he said a bunch of complicated but totally nice things to her, calling her strong. Az was fun too, but she could tell he wasn't into it like Izuku-kin's was. Even if what those guys said about Izuku-kin's danger cravings were right, that didn't matter. That just meant there was one person in this school who naturally liked her for who she was. And if he didn't, then she'd just give him everything he could ever want so he wouldn't leave. That's how it was in life. You have to give something in order to get something. And if that was the price for having a little company, then she would pay it 1,000,000 times and then some. Oh, it looked like her bushy green schoolmate was sitting on a bench outside, writing on something while talking about something. Is there any kind of drawback to how much she can make at a time? Maybe that's why she has nearly endless vitality when we were playing. Quirks aren't exactly the same thing as bloodline abilities. If it's a specific magic that allows a certain family to perform one type of magic easily, then is it possible for others to copy the same kind of magic? He did like to talk a lot, and a lot of it she wasn't able to follow along, but it sounded smart. He must work really strong, which means he deserves a break. Good thing she came along. She'll just calmly approach from the back. Heya! She jumped from the bush behind him, making him jump in the air and land back first on the ground. Clean hit. Hey, Clara, he said a bit weakly. Looks like he was tired. Time to do her part. Here, she summoned all of her favorite snacks and drinks, as well as some of her funnest playthings. These are all for you. I love them, so I'm sure you'll love them too. Clara. They taste so good, and look, this is my favorite plushie. Doesn't he look like fun? She kept summoning more and more things. Here, I saw you write something down, so here's a book. It has a lot of complicated words I'm sure you'd love to say. He just looked down at them. I made them all for you, so do you want to play again? I don't want them. He didn't want. No, he must have not liked anything he was given. Easily fixed. Are you hungry? I can give you your favorite snack, and then we can share and trade and... Sorry, Clara, but I don't want anything, he said with a straight tone. His green eyes stared into her own, and she could tell this wasn't something he was saying lightly. No hints of a joke. You. Her tail stopped wagging. All the energy she was saving up for today suddenly felt like it vanished. Waganj! I knew it was too good to be true. It had been a while since she last cried, and she was wishing it had stayed that way. Wait. I think you're getting the wrong idea here. Her last hope at not being lonely panicked, shaking again. Was he afraid of her after all? Was she just too dangerous for the danger junkie? No, this always happens to me, Clara kept bawling out. I ask people to play, but they all eventually get sick and tired of me and leave. Giving people all they want is all I'm good for. You're wrong, Clara-chan, never believe that. He grasped her hand in his own, like she had done before, and made sure she was looking straight into his eyes again. I probably understand what you're going through more than anybody. I know what it's like for no one to ever want you around. Back at my old home, I never had any worth to begin with. To them, I was less than useless. She tried to search for anything that signaled that he was lying, but she didn't find anything. How? How could anyone say that to such a fun person? They must have been broken in the head. If anything, I count myself lucky that someone special like you enjoys playing with me, that you haven't gotten tired of or bored with me. I never needed you to give me anything, because for the first time in a long time, I was actually having fun. Really? You mean it? Clara asked with a small smidgen of hope in her voice. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit much all at once, but you're so creative with everything that you do, and I can't help but admire that. He realized he was still holding onto her hands and reels them back, trembling while his whole body turned a cute shade of red. And I was hoping we'd get to play again. No bribes required, he spoke, not meeting her eyes anymore as he seemed to shake his head wildly. A smile edged its way onto her face. That sounds fun, she speaks honestly as they look at each other. Hey, Clara, she heard a certain grating voice shout. Turning, they would see Yoichi and his gang make their way over to them. Can me and my buddies have some snacks? I'd love to chat with you and your new MSTR, he shouts out to the pair, keeping his gaze on Izuku. Izuku frowns. Look, I'll try to talk them down. You can hide behind a tree. After they're done, we'll... She interrupts him with a pat on his shoulder. Don't worry, I've got this. Clara gives a wicked grin with sharp eyes that seem to command Izuku, unaware of the faint red on his cheeks as she gets up, moving over to Yoichi. She has a true playmate, someone who wants to be with her for her, so the boy in front of her has lost purpose for playtime. Sweet, since we're sitting in the sun, how about some soda this time? He smiles brightly, intentions hidden under his unassuming closed eyes. Her response is to give an innocent smile you'd see on a 4-year-old, tapping her pockets as she pulls out a full demon-sized vending machine. Have all the soda you want, just pay for it yourself. And thus, Clara swung the object like it was a baseball bat, hitting Yoichi with enough force that a loud crack rang across the grounds, sending both him and the object flying into the school wall, a crater forming in the stone. That's all you're getting from me from now on, you jerks! She shouts wildly at the other two, who begin screaming in fear. She begins walking back to Izuku, noticing his pale expression. Lovely, he's got his spike ball kicker face on. Jazz yawned as he walked down the halls, looking for any lucky targets he could snatch. It wasn't easy as some people assumed. Sure, his bloodline ability made snatching items a breeze, but it was strong to do when you already have a reputation of being an infamous kleptomaniac. Luckily, it was a new school year, so word of his serial pickpocketing had yet to reach the other first years, the teachers, and the student council. It wouldn't last long, so he had to act fast. But he should probably save the teachers for later, let them think he couldn't risk them with his inexperience. That way he'd have material for later. The staff was a double-sided sword. One hand, they had loads of stuff to nab, but if they got annoyed at him later, it could start some trouble. Especially the cooks, who didn't need poison in their food. He shivered at the memories of middle school. Never again. That leaves the other students, he thought as he glanced around. Needed someone dumb enough not to notice until it was far too late to react upon. Jazz saw a couple of beat-up-looking kids walk by, and wondered if taking advantage of a concussion was really worth all the possible guilt and shame that would fall. He couldn't even keep a straight face inside of his own thoughts. He pocketed all the stolen soda and chips, now staring at the wallet to see what was inside. He clicked his tongue. They must have spent it all. As he pocketed the reward in his shirt, he noticed that Izuku guy outside, running from paint-filled balloons as he seemed to be laughing. The weirder part was Asmodeus following with one of his own, absolutely drenched in paint. He didn't seem too happy with the situation, so his best guess was that the honor student was trying to rile up the school representative in some way. They didn't call him an adrenaline junkie for nothing. Behind them was that Velak student, sharp teeth grinning widely as she threw balloons faster than a Gatling gun. Truly, a sugar rush incarnate. Jazz, for a brief moment, considered using the chaos that they generated, unaware of their surroundings before taking their valuables. The honor student was the chair demon's grandson, right? So he had to be loaded. He thought about it as he saw the bush-haired kid smile brightly. A form of content rested on his face. Jazz sighed, walking away. Damn it, he was supposed to have ditched that conscience. Guess he's got a thing for innocence. Then again, the idea of the honor student and Velak hanging around each other was a bit of a terrifying thought, if the stories he's heard about them were anything to say about it. Maybe he should get a bell in order to stay far, far away from them. It wasn't like he was going to spend a whole year around them, right? So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and authors 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.